Yuu Otosaka is pretty much a hopeless case who happens to have this one weird trick. He can hijack someone else's body, but there are a couple of catches. First, he only gets 5 seconds inside, and second, he needs to actually look at the person before he can take over their controls. His whole life gets turned upside down though, when he runs into this girl who shows him this whole other world full of powers and helps him level up into some crazy, strong, big deal ability user. Like always, Yu starts his day trying to get a look up girls' skirts around town. For Yu, that's just his normal routine, being this sneaky invisible perv who jumps into people's bodies for 5 seconds. During that time, Yu would either try to peek at a girl's private stuff or start fights with guys he didn't like. But honestly, that wasn't even his best work, because he really used his power for cheating his ass off on tests. Whenever there was an exam, he'd hop into some nerd's head for 5 seconds, and the second he was back in his own body, he'd quickly scribble down all their answers onto his own paper. That's pretty much how Yu bullshitted his way to being top dog in his middle school. Still, that wasn't the ultimate plan. What Yu really wanted was to scam his way into one of the top 10 fancy high schools in Japan. The only problem was, since he could only take over people he'd already seen, he was kinda screwed when he realized he wouldn't know which smarty pants to hijack in the big entrance test hall. But, being basically evil incarnate, Yu cooked up a slick solution pretty fast. Step 1 of his big idea was changing how he looked and crashing cram schools so he could fit in. Building off that, Step 2 meant making a hit list of the top students trying for his dream school, making sure he had the perfect targets all lined up for body snatching when the time was right. A few days later, at the entrance ceremony, Yu finds himself sitting with the other kids who got into Hoshinumi Private High School. The announcer calls his name, asking Yu to come up and give a speech as the new student big shot. As he walks up there, everyone else, especially the guys, are looking daggers at Yu, knowing he pulls more girls than a rock star. Yu's massive ego is super obvious in his welcoming speech. During class, Yu gets a text. Sighing like he couldn't care less, Yu figures getting texts from girls is just another Tuesday for him, since he's not just the smartest kid around but basically the school's main stud. Still, not wanting to keep his fangirl waiting, Yu decides he'll go meet her, planning to totally crush her hopes and send her off crying. Showing up at the spot, Yu finds the girl in a quiet area and asks her straight up why she's blowing up his phone like some psycho girlfriend. In reply, the girl nervously mumbles something about wanting him to knock her up. Totally grossed out, Yu shuts her down hard, saying he'd rather just stay single forever than date someone he thinks looks like a monster. Facing that brutal rejection, the girl completely loses it and runs off, probably to start some dramatic transformation and montage. Yu just watches her go and smirks. I mean, why would he bother with a girl who looks like some kind of lizard when he's totally got the hots for the most popular girl in school, Yumi Shirayanagi? Today, instead of just staring at Yumi like she's art, Yu decides it's time to make a move. As Yumi and her friend are waiting for the bus, Yu watches for the perfect chance. So when a truck shows up down the road, hello, plot device, Yu instantly sees his opening to maybe get lucky with Yumi. So, he puts his plan into action. He jumps into Yumi's friend's body and makes her run off, then he hops into the truck driver and points the truck right at Yumi. Of course, right when the truck's about to flatten her, Yu pops back into his own body and shoves Yumi out of the way, making it look like he just pulled off a heroic save from a gnarly accident. As Yumi is trying to figure out what just happened, Yu asks if she's alright. Yumi's friend runs back just then and shakes her back to reality, pointing out how Yu just saved her from basically becoming a potato. Yu jumps in, helping Yumi up and taking her to the nurse to get fixed up. When they come out, Yumi shyly tells Yu she wants to thank him for saving her from getting sent to another world as furniture or something. But, being a master of fake charm, Yu pretends to turn her down, saying he doesn't want to be a bother. Yumi, totally clueless about his scam, insists on repaying him. Eventually, Yu reluctantly agrees to go get pancakes with the school's #1 hottie. At the pancake place, Yu gets ready to inhale his food like he's trying out for a competitive eating show, but Yumi quickly stops him and shows him the proper way to eat pancakes. Even though he hates her method, Yu lays on the praise about how creative she is with food because he knows the fastest way to a girl's good side is just nodding along with whatever she says. As they're about to leave, Yumi asks if they can meet up every day after school. Yu agrees, thinking he's totally got Yumi twisted around his finger. The next day, Yumi, apparently unable to see the giant red flags waving around Yu, texts him asking to walk home together. When Yu gets the text, he starts laughing like a total psycho before realizing people can actually see him. Before he gets a chance to drag Yumi off somewhere shady, Yu gets called into the student council office. In there, Yu finds himself looking at the council president, who's holding a stack of papers. The president tells Yu, sounding very official, that since he got the top score, he now has to redo the test right there to prove it. He explains that if Yu doesn't get over 90%, he's getting kicked out for cheating. Realizing he's cornered, Yu sits down to try the test but basically pees his pants when he sees the questions are way too hard for his tiny brain. Wanting to cheat again, he possesses the president's body only to find out that instead of thinking hard, the president is busy checking out some dirty pictures. Annoyed, Yu rips up the magazine before jumping back into his own body, but just as he snaps back, this girl with light blonde pigtails pops up next to him, holding a camera. She says she's now Tamori from another school and shows him recordings of him using his powers. Busted by this new girl, Yu takes off running like a ninja, but quickly figures out someone super speedy is chasing him. When Yu stops to gasp for air, he gets yanked up and dragged across a lake like a caught frog. Looking up, he sees a dude in nerdy glasses staring down at him. The guy introduces himself as Jojiro Takajo and explains his power is running insanely fast, like he just got caught doing something illegal online by the cops but he hasn't figured out the brakes yet. When Yu asks what they want from him, now appears out of thin air and says he's transferring to Hoshinumi Academy, a school for kids with powers. She also spills that these powers are actually like a sickness that goes away once they hit puberty. Now adds she already got permission from his guardian. Yu gets pissed and tries to fight now, but before he can swing, now vanishes and proceeds to beat the crap out of him, making him pray for mercy. Jojiro then explains that now only disappears for the person she picks, everyone else can still see her just fine. Now then tells Yu she wants him on the student council because she thinks he can be useful. After getting smacked around like a party favor, Yu drags himself home, where his sister Aayumi meets him. She's super excited, telling him they're both going to Hoshinumi Academy and that she made his favorite omelet rice to celebrate. While they're eating, Aayumi tells Yu she gets this feeling like they have another brother or sister out there somewhere. Of course, Yu just blows her off, telling Aayumi she needs to stop making up imaginary siblings. The next day, the two of them move into Hoshinumi Academy, and Aayumi bounces around her new room like a hyper kid at a carnival. Later that evening, Yu tracks down Yumi and explains he's moving schools, suggesting maybe she could visit, but Yumi tells Yu she's got a good dad and isn't about to chase after some guy. With that, she gives him a quick, cold goodbye, leaving him feeling like crap. The next day, Yu gets ready for his new start. Looking in the mirror, Yu admires himself, thinking God must have spent extra time on him. As he leaves, he's met by a super cheerful Aayumi who yet again gives him omelet rice for lunch. Sick of the same meal every single day, Yu thinks to himself that Aayumi kinda deserves to be treated like a disposable wife from a cheap commercial. Getting to his new school, Yu is greeted by Nao and Jojiro. Curious about the place, Yu asks Nao if literally everyone there has powers. Nao explains that most students are either expected to get powers soon or have only shown tiny hints of them. Yu scoffs at how strict it sounds until Nao tells him how, before this school existed, kids with special abilities were snatched up and taken to labs where they were poked and prodded like lab rats. Yu shrugs, saying it couldn't be that bad, which makes Nao reveal how her own older brother basically went crazy because of those scientists. Once they reach their spot, Yu gets annoyed and asks Nao why he has to join the council and help them out. Nao tells him very seriously that their job as the student council is super important. They have to find people with powers before anyone else does, and if those people refuse to cooperate, they have to scare them into not using their powers. But since Nao totally messed with him earlier, Yu angrily asks why he should lift a finger for her. Nao just casually says he can either make some cash doing this job or end up working at a fast food joint scrubbing mysterious stains off the bathroom walls. In the end, Yu reluctantly agrees to Nao's deal. Later that day, Yu makes a face as he opens his lunch and finds Ayumi's gross omelet again. All of a sudden, Jojiro shows up and suggests they eat lunch together in the main cafeteria. Yu glances over at Nao, who's eating by herself like a total loner, and asks Jojiro why she's alone. Jojiro says they could ask her to join, but Yu shoots that down. The guys head to the cafeteria later and find it jammed packed with hungry students, ready to fight over food. As Yu wonders how they'll ever get anything to eat through the crowd, Jojiro smirks and says where there's food, there's a way. He then lays out his plan to use his superpower, which makes Yu ask how he's going to pull that off without getting caught on camera. Jojiro tells Yu he's worried about the wrong stuff because once he starts moving, he won't even be able to tell what sandwich he's grabbing. With that, Jojiro zooms towards the sandwich stand at warp speed, snatching a bunch of sandwiches. The lady working there just sighs, looking at the mess Jojiro made. Later on, Yu asks Jojiro again why Nao eats by herself. Jojiro, acting like a real smartass, guesses that everyone probably keeps their distance from Now because A, she's the student council president, and B, since she's visible to everyone except the one person she chooses to ignore, seeing her beat people up in the hallways makes her seem as scary as a female wrestler. Just then, Now walks up to the guys and says their helper is coming. Yu looks confused, but Jojiro just tells him to go to the student council room. When Yu gets there, he's met by some guy who looks like a soggy piece of clothing. Instead of talking to Yu or the others, the guy just points at a map and says their next target has psychic photography. Shocked by the helper's weird behavior, Yu asks what the heck that was all about. Jojiro just casually says the helper's power is finding other people with abilities. Excited for the next mission, Now says they're ditching school to find their target. When they get to the target school, Now rushes around like crazy, asking people about weird stuff. Yu, meanwhile, hangs back because he doesn't want the girls thinking he's with the weird chick. Now pops up and tells Yu she found someone acting shady and asks him to use his powers to look in the guy's bag. Desperate for a chance to go through someone else's stuff, Yu goes with her. When they catch the guy, Yu jumps into his body and makes him dump his backpack while Now grabs the photos that fall out, which turn out to be dirty pictures of a girl. Seeing this, they basically blackmail the kid into telling them who sold him the pics, threatening him with some nasty stuff involving famous rappers. Not wanting to lose his ability to sit comfortably, the kid rats out his supplier, a guy named Udo. After looking around for Udo, they find their target hanging out at the archery club. Now confronts Udo, who tries to act innocent and deny having any powers. Seeing his reaction, Now tells him there's no point lying, since his customer already snitched. Cornered, Udo tells Now he took those creepy pictures to remind guys what their grandpas supposedly died for in wars. Right then, he snaps a picture of Now and warns her to back off, or he'll make sure everyone knows her underwear is super modest. Of course, Now can't let that happen, so she uses her power to distract him and grabs the photo, saving her secret and her pride. Now tells Udo that if he doesn't quit using his powers, she'll leak his entire internet history to the feds. This makes Udo so mad he points an arrow at Now, but before he can shoot, Jojiro saves Now just in time. Once the threat is handled, Now tells Udo that if he doesn't stop messing around with his powers, he'll end up on some creepy island getting messed with and cut open by a famous physicist. Now, totally scared, Udo gives in and promises to never use his powers again. Since Yu is still curious about Nao's older brother, Nao decides to take him along to meet him. They hop on the train, because clearly they aren't rich enough for fancy cars. During the ride, Nao basically inhales food like a competitive eater, treating Yu and the other passengers to a food show nobody asked for. After stuffing herself, Nao explains that her brother got his powers right when she got into a really good middle school. In her excitement back then, she bragged to her older brother about how she was going to be the family's breadwinner while he was just some broke musician. Kazuki just laughed and told Nao her future looked pretty bleak, using a Planet pun. He then asked if Nao liked his favorite band, Jind, but she said she preferred another band. Sadly, Nao never made it to her fancy school because their mom begged both her and Kazuki to go to a boarding school instead. Kazuki was super mad at first, but seeing his mom practically groveling made him realize she couldn't support them using her usual methods anymore. So they ended up enrolling in the boarding school. While Nao was busy making friends, Kazuki was being experimented on because he had the power to vibrate the air whenever he wanted. The scientists studying him wanted his power for themselves. After a whole year of non-stop experiments, Nao was finally allowed to see her brother, but he wasn't the same guy anymore. Kazuki barely knew who she was, and Nao quickly figured out that all the friends she thought she had were actually spies sent by the scientists to keep her busy. Nao realized she was also being watched daily because they thought she might get powers too. Before they could turn her into a mindless zombie, Nao escaped with the help of some important guy. Yu tries to ask about this guy, but Nao shuts him down, saying they've arrived. Getting to the hospital, Yu is shocked to see Kazuki ripping apart his mattress. A nurse quickly gives him a shot to calm him down. While Yu is stunned, Nao seems totally used to her brother acting like this. Instead of feeling bad for him, Nao takes Kazuki outside where Yu sees an amazing view. Nao then reveals it was the important guy, who made sure Kazuki would be taken care of peacefully until the very end. After getting back home, Yu is met by Aayumi, who's made vegetable soup. Taking one sip, Yu instantly recoils and asks Aayumi if she put weird bathwater in their food again. Aayumi just smiles and cheerfully says, "Whatever doesn't kill you, makes you stronger." The next morning, Yu wakes up and finds Aayumi has packed the same old nasty sweet omelet rice for him yet again. He tells her she doesn't need to pack his lunch anymore since his taste buds are basically dead thanks to her awful cooking. But, still wanting to mess with her brother, Aayumi insists he take lunch just for today. At school, Jojiro tells Yuu they have special, limited edition chicken for lunch in the cafeteria. Yuu, however, gets bummed out, telling his friend that if it's a limited curry, it'll be gone super fast. Jojiro then reminds Yuu, using a racist comparison, that he's incredibly quick when it comes to getting chicken. True to his word, Jojiro bolts out of the classroom, giving Yuu a heart attack. By the time Yuu gets to the cafeteria, he finds Jojiro covered in his own blood. He sighs and tells Jojiro he should probably see a doctor, but the guy just wipes off the blood and tells Yuu he needs to honor the chicken that died for him. As the boys are raving about their food, Jojiro gets a call from Nao. He tells Yuu the helper guy is coming again today, and they need to rush to the student council office. At the council office, the helper, Kumagami, walks in. Curious why Kumagami is always dripping wet like someone's forgotten laundry, Yuu asks Jojiro about it. Jojiro explains that Kumagami's special power only works when he's soaking wet. This makes Yuu shudder, thinking about how cold Kumagami's parts must always be. Moving on, Kumagami tells the group their next target has the power of channeling. Since Yuu is basically clueless, he asks what channeling means. Nao speaks up, explaining their target can talk to dead people. Yuu is instantly blown away by this power and asks the group if he can use the target to chat with Genghis Khan, because he's always wondered how a guy like that managed to have so many kids. Everyone ignores Yuu, while Kumagami adds that this target actually has two powers, channeling and making fire, pyrokinesis. Once Kumagami leaves, both Yuu and Jojiro are stunned to learn someone has two powers. Nao joins the guys and points at the map, saying their target seems to be on the move. Not wasting any more time, the three of them head to an alley where the target was last seen. When they get there, Nao quickly guesses something weird is happening. They find two sets of footprints, which makes Nao think an adult might be chasing a girl. Out on an open road, Nao questions a woman who says she saw the famous pop star Yusa being chased by a man but thought it was for a movie, so she didn't get involved. While Nao and Yuu try to remember who Yusa is, Jojiro totally freaks out, yelling that Yusa is the super famous idol he dreams about marrying every morning before his alarm wakes him up. This finally clicks for Yuu. Yusa is the idol Aayumi worships like crazy. All of a sudden, Nao spots a suspicious guy and tells her crew to chase him down. As they catch up to grab the man, the jerk pushes Nao, making her fall. Yuu instantly jumps into his body, and Jojiro takes care of the rest. Nao curses, telling the man that if her butt gets any flatter, she'll sell his organs to pay for plastic surgery. Terrified of the tiny girl threatening him, the man quickly spills that he was hired to follow Yusa. Once the guy is hauled off in an ambulance, Yuu and his team are met by a kid who asks if they're beating people up because they want Yusa's autograph. Nao tells him they aren't that crazy, like Taylor Swift fans, and just want to make sure the idol is safe. At first, the kid refuses to tell them where Yusa is until Nao gives him a little demo of her own powers. Surprised at first, the kid just scoffs and says his dad is way better at being invisible. He then leads them to a club where the group finds another boy with the idol. Seeing Yusa, Jojiro begs her to let him take just one picture of her big toe. The guys with Yusa look disgusted and ask Nao what they want with Misa. Now confused, Nao asks if Yusa's real name is Misa, but the guys don't answer. Nao talks to Yusa, who sweetly explains that lately, it feels like someone else is controlling her body. This made her think she needs to sacrifice 100 virgins to get rid of whoever is inside her. Nao replies in the same sweet tone, telling Yusa that centuries ago, women were burned at the stake for saying stuff like that. Nao then asks Yusa's friends if Misa is one of the spirits Yusa can talk to. They then reveal that Misa is Yusa's older sister who died in a car crash. Suddenly, Misa takes over Yusa's body and starts swearing like a drunken sailor. Yuu is shocked to see such a huge change in Yusa's personality. Before Misa took over, Yusa seemed like a total sweetheart. Misa, in her rage, starts burning everything around her, which leads Nao to figure out that Yusa has the power to channel the dead, while Misa can control fire. Misa confirms this, and after arguing with Nao just for fun, she reveals why Yusa is being followed by a big shot producer. She accidentally got his phone, which has a video of him doing something gross with donuts and his junk. After hearing this, Nao tells Misa she can help them out of this mess. That night, Misa, pretending to be Yusa, calls the producer and his goons. While the producer is harassing Yusa, Misa and Yuu's friends take out the producer's men. Once everything is in place, Misa unleashes a fire attack while Now gives the producer an invisible beatdown. Scared for his life, the producer begs for forgiveness. He gets to live, but only if he promises never to bother them again. Later, Now tells the two guys with Yusa that she has to take Yusa to her school because it's not safe for her anymore. Hearing this, the boy named Sho tells Misa how he's always loved her, but now she's literally going to ghost him. Misa smiles and tells Sho to find a real woman and move on. After a tearful goodbye, Yu goes home totally wiped out. The next day, Yu's streak of bad luck kicks off the moment Aayumi gives him a plate of food. Yu dies a little inside, thinking he'd rather watch his grandparents get it on than look at Ayumi's cooking again. But the part of him that wants to be nice convinces him to choke it down. Aayumi quickly sees the look on his face and tells Yu he looks the same way he did when their pastor did something inappropriate to him. Yu assures Aayumi he's totally fine and bolts for school before he gets the runs. At school, Jojiro is freaking out about how Yusa will be in their class. Yu also sees a bunch of guys talking about having the idol in their school. This makes him sigh, thinking about how much chaos having Yusa around is going to cause. As Yusa walks into class, the guys erupt into loud cheers while Yu stays cool, probably hoping someone will make a cool Sigma male edit of him online. But even his tough act melts a bit when Yusa politely asks her classmates to chill out because she wants to enjoy her school years with everyone. The teacher then tells Yusa to sit next to Now, who greets her coldly, which gets the other classmates talking about Now. Later that day, Yusa finds herself mobbed by a group of her male classmates. Some tell Yusa made up stories about saving orphans from fires, while another guy claims he was actually the one who landed on the moon, not Neil Armstrong. A fight suddenly breaks out between the boys as they all try to get Yusa's attention. This makes Yusa sing a song from her band, Howlo Hello, to calm down the toddler she's surrounded by. Meanwhile, Jojiro is fangirling from a distance until Now shows up and tells them their helper is here. She then drags Yusa away with them, much to everyone else's disappointment. In the student council room, Yusa starts shaking when she sees Kumagami, who announces their next target has telekinesis. Trying to act cool, Jojiro assures Yusa that Kumagami isn't scary, just kinda like a wet dog. Once Kumagami leaves, Now says their target is a student at Kanai High School and a rising baseball star. Without wasting time, the gang heads to the school where Now immediately confronts the boy, saying she knows he uses telekinesis to throw his knuckleball. The boy, named Arifumi, tries to play it cool, telling Now she sounds like a crazy conspiracy theorist. Annoyed by his attitude, Nayo tells Arifumi it's pointless to misuse his power since by the time he goes pro, the power will likely disappear when he hits puberty anyway. But when Arifumi stays stubborn, Nayo challenges him to a baseball game. If her school wins, he has to do what she says. Arifumi agrees, saying if his team wins, she has to stay out of his business. With the deal made, Nayo and her crew walk home. Yu asks her how she plans to actually win. Now casually reveals that since nobody on the normal baseball team has powers, the student council members will just join the game and use their abilities to cheat their way to victory against Arifumi. The following week, Now and her team face off against Arifumi and his team. Before the game, Now warns her teammates that if they make her lose, she'll make them do a horrible painting chore with a tiny brush. The game starts, and much to Nao's annoyance, Arifumi and his team are totally dominating. Finally, having had enough, Now gathers the student council and says they're going to start playing dirty from now on, telling her crew to use their powers. The game takes a wild turn, ending with Now and her team winning. After the match, Yu finds himself actually enjoying his new school, while Arifumi agrees to play fair from now on. The next day, Yu watches as Yusa continues to be surrounded by crowds of adoring fans. Ticked off, he wonders why everyone acts like Yusa is some kind of goddess who doesn't even use the bathroom like a normal person. Jojiro, being the biggest fanboy ever, tells Yu he bets Yusa probably leaves flowers in the toilet bowl or something. All of a sudden, Yusa sees Now getting surrounded by a bunch of angry girls. They drag Now outside, making Yu so curious that he decides to sneak after them, like a coward. Yu watches from a safe distance as the girls beat up Now, who just stands there and takes it silently. Once they leave, Yu figures the girls probably jumped her because she's always beating up other people. He goes over to check on Now, who just dusts herself off and bluntly tells Yu that if he was really so worried, he should have stepped in earlier. Right before Now gets a call, she tells Yu their helper is here. When they get to the student council office, Kumagami states their next target has the power of levitation. Now gets super excited, making a Dua Lipa joke, and then throws a magazine on the table saying she's been following the story of this flying man for a while. As the gang looks at the picture, Yuu notes that the guy seems to be hiding out deep in the mountains. Based on that, Now guesses he's probably practicing his skills and they need to grab him before he gets more famous than the Kardashians. As the group grumbles about Nao's plan, she excitedly declares it's time for a camping trip in the mountains. With the plan set, Nao heads to the supermarket to load up on food. It also seems like Nao has side missions, like intentionally annoying vegans by buying huge amounts of meat. Even Yuu is surprised by how much meat Nao can eat. Nao, on the other hand, proudly says that for every cow the vegans save, she'll eat too, because she never lets her enemies win. While Yuu and Nao argue, Yusa and Jojiro watch from afar. Yusa tells Jojiro that Yuu and Nao look like they're an old married couple arguing about bills. Jojiro agrees, saying Yuu and Nao do look cute together, but clarifies they aren't actually dating. Once the group has everything they need, Nao tells the boys to carry the heavy camping tents, which pisses off Yuu. He asks her why they have to stay out in the woods for a whole night. Nao tells him they need to wait for the target to show himself since he seems to be hiding. After a long hike, Nao, acting like the mom of this very dysfunctional group, tells them to set up the tents right there. But as Yuu and Jojiro are working on the campsite, Yuu falls into a hidden, dry well. He angrily yells about why they didn't warn him, and Nao snaps back that he's both dumb and blind. After bickering like a couple who secretly loves each other, Nao announces it's time for the best barbecue the area has ever seen. During the meat grilling, pun totally intended, Yuu asks Yusa how she feels about Misa. Yusa happily reveals that while she was always a girly girl, Misa considered herself one of the guys. Hearing this, Yuu can't help but wonder if Misa sometimes possessing Yusa would technically make it a threesome if he ever got Yusa into bed. Later that night, Yuu notices Nao isn't at the campsite and goes looking for her. After walking deeper into the woods, he finds Nao listening to music by herself, which seems like a regular thing for her. As Yuu gets closer, he asks if she's listening to mumble rap, but Nao hands him her headphones, revealing a song by Jind. Since Yuu usually only listens to trashy music, he tells Nao he's never heard anything that good before. Nao says Jind was her brother's favorite band. This makes Yuu listen more closely, and as he does, he suddenly feels like he's transported to a huge open field. After taking off the headphones, Yuu tells Nao about his weird experience, which gets her really excited. She tells Yuu he's not like other guys because he actually understood the song's deeper meaning. Not wanting any die-hard Zijin fans to doubt her own love for the band, Nao tells Yuu how the lead singer is blind, which is why the music felt so powerful. She also tells Yuu he can keep the headphones, since she makes plenty of money selling weird stuff to nerdy guys online. That night, Yuu plugs in the headphones and dreams about a boy he's seen many times before in his dreams. On day 2, the student council decides to eat seafood. After eating, Nao shows Yusa to a really crappy makeshift bath area while telling the boys to go wash their dirty selves in the river. This upsets Jojiro, who apparently had plans to drink Yusa's bathwater. After whining a bit, the boys head to the river, where Yuu realizes Jojiro is actually pretty ripped. Seeing his friend's hot bod, Yuu realizes he's just as shallow as anyone, then tells Jojiro he has a nice body. Jojiro gives him a serious look, which makes Yuu quickly add, "No homo." After washing up, the group sits together. Yuu says he'd really like to get back to civilization where he has a sister to take care of. Nao says she can't let him go, but tries to make him feel better by saying she's sure their target will show up tomorrow. To Yuu's surprise, the target actually does show up at their campsite. He asks the group why they're hanging out in the middle of nowhere. Nao lies, saying they're all runaways planning to live there forever. The target, named Sky High Saito, tells Nao to just wait a few more years and then dump her parents in a nursing home. But then, Nao gets serious and asks the guy if he can fly around and drop bombs on his enemies' cars like some kind of angry pigeon. Saito tries to deny it at first, but when that doesn't work, he grabs Nao's camera and shoots straight up into the sky. Seeing this, Yuu instantly possesses Saito's body, but when he finds himself way up high, he has to force himself to use Saito's power. Luckily, he manages to figure it out and makes a pretty clumsy landing. While he's catching his breath, Jojiro tells Yuu that if he had fallen, at least he would have gotten a handicapped parking spot. As Saito lies nearby, Nao and the others go talk to him. Nao tells him to stop using his power if he doesn't want to end up dissected like a frog in science class. Saito reluctantly agrees, and Yuu finally gets to go home. Over dinner, Aayumi tells Yuu that some boy asked her out, but she turned him down. While she's talking, Aayumi starts coughing badly. Yuu notices this and tells her to go to sleep and rest. The next morning, Yuu checks on Aayumi while sitting by her bed. She apologizes for not being able to make breakfast. Yuu tries to cheer her up by joking that at least today Gordon Ramsay wouldn't be yelling at her, cooking from across the globe. He then tells Aayumi to skip school and just rest all day. Later at school, Kumagami marks a spot on the map and announces their next target's power is Collapse. But instead of focusing on the potential danger, the 4 losers just stare at Kumagami, all suddenly realizing that he seems to have a second power, instantly making girls interested. Shifting his attention back to the map, Yuu figures out the target is located in their school's own apartment building. Now wonders who it could be since only teenagers have powers and everyone should be in school. She guesses the target might be a student who called in sick. Hearing this makes Yuu really anxious. Now notices Yuu's worried look and asks him about it, but Yuu refuses to say anything, not wanting to bother Aayumi while she's sick. As Nao keeps pushing him, Yuu reluctantly reveals that Aayumi was the one who called in sick. Hearing this, Nao states that it's actually pretty common for siblings to both get powers. Not wasting any more time, they decide to go visit Aayumi. Yusa gets excited about meeting Yuu's little sister, while Yuu gets nervous since Aayumi practically worships Yusa. Before heading to the apartment building, Yusa suggests they bring something nice for Aayumi. Thinking it's a good idea, Yuu proposes they get her some rice pudding. So the group heads to a convenience store, where Nao once again uses the opportunity to grab a bunch of stuff for herself. As Yuu adds up the cost, he realizes that anyone who marries Nao will end up broke and bald. In the end, Yuu makes Nao pay for her own stuff, saying he's a feminist who believes in paying your own way. When they arrive at the apartment, Yuu turns to Yusa and tells her she can't just walk in normally because Aayumi might actually faint from excitement. Reluctantly, Yusa puts on glasses and a mask to hide her identity, but as they walk inside, they notice 3 extra pairs of shoes by the door. Yuu opens the door to Ayumi's room and finds her surrounded by her classmates. The girls introduce themselves and explain they came over to keep Aayumi company. Once they leave, Aayumi immediately starts trying to set Nao and Yuu up together. She bombards them with embarrassing questions, asking if they have started dating yet, which both of them strongly deny. Thankfully, Ayumi's attention soon switches to Yusa. Recognizing her, she gets a massive nosebleed. Nao quickly helps her stop the bleeding, but when Yusa takes off her mask, Aayumi gets overwhelmed again, resulting in another nosebleed. Yusa then goes over to Aayumi and gives her some cookies. Later, all of them sit down to eat dinner together. After they finish, Yusa gets a call from her agent. She tells the group she needs to leave to make a dance video for TikTok to show support for some trendy political thing. Meanwhile, Yuu and Nao wash the dishes together while Aayumi watches them, insisting they're totally meant to be a couple. Without even looking up, both Nao and Yuu reply that they'd rather move to North Korea than date each other. Later that night, Nao and Yuu tuck Aayumi back into bed. When Aayumi mentions she had a dream, Nao starts asking questions, but Yuu gently stops her, suggesting they let Aayumi rest. With that, Nao decides to leave and Yuu walks her to the door. Before parting, Nao tells Yuu to keep a really close eye on Aayumi and make sure she stays inside the apartment building until they know more about her superpower. The next morning, Yuu tells Aayumi that even though she feels better, she still needs to stay inside. Aayumi tries to argue, but Yuu firmly tells her she absolutely cannot leave. During the school's lunch break, both Jojiro and Yuu get a text from Nao asking them to meet her at the student council office. When they arrive, Nao tells them she thinks Aayumi has left the apartment building. During their talk, Nao says she has a bad feeling, like something terrible is about to happen, pushing them to rush towards the school building. Meanwhile, Aayumi sneaks into the school and hurries to her class. Suddenly, she's confronted by Konishi, a girl with a face only a mother could tolerate. In a creepy voice, Konishi accuses Aayumi of stealing the guy she's liked forever and swears she'll make Aayumi disappear. Terrified, Aayumi turns and runs, with Konishi right behind her. Desperately looking for a place to hide, Aayumi tries to get into a bathroom stall but finds them all locked. Cornered and shaking, Ayumi's fear takes over, and in a moment of sheer panic, she unleashes her superpower. The entire building collapses while the 4 student council members watch in absolute horror as the structure crumbles right in front of them. In a total panic, Yuu dashes towards the wreckage and starts frantically digging through the rubble, desperate to find his sister. As he claws through the debris, a loud creaking sound suddenly grabs his attention. Looking up, his heart stops as he sees a massive chunk of concrete breaking loose and falling straight towards him. When Yu wakes up, all bandaged up in a hospital bed, the very first thing he does is ask about Aayumi. The doctors gently tell him that Aayumi didn't survive the collapse. She's gone. In that single moment, Yu feels like his entire world just fell apart. During the funeral, Yu is completely lost in his own head, barely hearing the condolences people offer him. Returning to his cold, empty apartment, Yu is crushed by the silence that's now everywhere. He goes into Ayumi's room and pulls out her best picture. With a heavy heart, Yu realizes, with typical vanity, that he's definitely the better looking one in the family. Suddenly, memories flood his mind, all the times Aayumi was just there for him. Overwhelmed with guilt, Yu breaks down, crying his eyes out for all the moments he completely took for granted. As the night gets deeper and darker, Yu feels hunger pangs starting up, making him go to the kitchen to find something to eat. Right then, he actually starts missing Ayumi's awful cooking. With no other choices, he digs through the cabinets, opening them one by one, looking for anything edible. Then he remembers the food their uncle had sent over. He grabs a few instant ramen cups and starts wolfing them down, making a total mess of the kitchen. Trying to numb the pain, Yu turns on the TV and just stares blankly until a knock on the door startles him. Looking through the peephole, he finds Jojiro and Yusa standing there, smiling warmly. Yusa says she made stew with her cream to cheer him up, but when Yu doesn't open the door, Misa takes over Yusa's body and drops the stew. She angrily yells about how she fainted tons of times while milking herself to make the creamiest stew, just for Yu. Jojiro, on the other hand, starts crying and tells Misa he would have sacrificed his whole family just to eat that stew. Days go by, and the floor next to Yu's couch becomes buried under empty ramen cups. One day, Yumi Shirayanagi shows up, but Yu doesn't even acknowledge her. She asks how he's doing, and Yu basically tells her that if she's not there to offer sex, she should just leave. Pointing at the pile of trash, Yumi offers to clean up, but Yu just shrugs and tells her he always wanted a hot maid anyway. Looking totally fed up, Yumi then asks Yu to go get pancakes with her, but he refuses and asks why she's trying to act like his mom. Not giving up, Yumi tells Yu that since he's not some sparkly vampire, he should go outside with her. This makes Yu explode, kicking all the ramen cups everywhere in a rage as he yells at her. Yumi finally gets the hint that Yu doesn't want her around and leaves. After Yumi leaves, Yu tries to find more ramen in the cabinet but finds it empty. Frustrated, he decides he has to go outside to buy more. Just as he's about to leave, he looks through the peephole and sees some guys waiting outside. Realizing they've come to grab him, Yu quickly uses his power to possess one of them and escapes the building. Once he's free, Yu gets some cash and jumps on an express train, determined to get as far away as possible. After getting off the train, he finds a tiny one-bedroom place and goes back to hiding from the world. He switches from ramen to pizza, eating tons of it while avoiding any contact with other people. As more days pass, Yu eventually realizes he hasn't actually been outside in a long time. He pulls up his hood and ventures out, keeping his face hidden. While wandering around, he spots some mitarashi dango, sweet rice dumplings, and impulsively buys a whole bunch. While stuffing his face with them, he watches some guys playing a video game. Intrigued, he joins in, blasting away zombies one after another. The quick hit of dopamine makes him feel better for a bit, and he soon gets hooked by binging on pizza, mitarashi dango, and playing the zombie game constantly. A few days later, Yu goes to the arcade and sees a group of guys playing his favorite game. He waits patiently for them to finish, but when they just keep playing, he calls them out, demanding a turn. They turn around and glare at him, treating him like dirt. Without warning, the thugs drag him out of the arcade and get ready to beat him up. However, Yu quickly possesses them one by one and uses his powers to make them punch each other. Once they are all down, he walks over to one of the guys and stabs his leg with the sharp sticks from the mitarashi dango. He then warns the guy to stay out of his way, or he'll send him to hell to explain some weird acronym to the ancient Romans. The next day, Yu gets cornered by another gang trying to rough him up. The leader, Hamada, asks if Yu is the one who took down the Gandu gang all by himself. Proud of what he did, Yu just smirks, which makes Hamada threaten that after tonight, Yu won't forget his name. Yu just scoffs and tells the guy no girl would ever date him because his name sounds stupid. When the gang members try to jump him, Yu possesses them one by one, making them hit each other. In the chaos, he possesses one guy who ends up stabbing Hamada in the leg. Popping up next to Hamada, Yu holds the dango stick dangerously close to his eye and asks if he wants to become a one-eyed pirate. The gang leader begs for mercy, and Yu walks away, laughing like a complete lunatic. Going from reluctant hero to total villain, Yuu keeps picking fights with different gangs. After beating another gang, Yuu notices one of the guys struggling to grab something that fell out of his pocket. Curious, Yuu picks it up and opens it, finding what the narrator calls Snoop Dogg's breakfast: drugs. Feeling pretty pleased with himself, Yuu rolls a joint and is just about to light it when someone kicks it right out of his hand. Looking up, he sees Nao standing there. He asks her how she found him, and she casually reminds him that since she's basically a professional stalker, her words, she used her ability to follow him. With total confidence, Nao tells Yuu that after just one bite of her home-cooked food, he'll want to go back to being his old self. Back at her place, Nao cooks Yuu omelet rice, which instantly reminds him of Aayumi. For a split second, he wonders if dating Nao would make him like Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones. He shakes off the weird thought and eats the meal. For the first time in a long time, Yuu actually smiles. After thinking it over, he decides to rejoin the student council. The next morning, Yuu gets ready to leave for school. But before leaving the house, he takes a quick moment to look at Ayumi's picture, comparing her looks to Kim Jong-un's in his head. After getting to his class, Yuu is welcomed back by Jojiro and Yusa. This really ticks off her fanboys, who glare at Yuu with jealousy. Seeing the looks on their faces, Yuu feels uneasy, realizing that if he doesn't keep his distance from Yusa, he might end up being the star of a true crime show. Yusa also picks up on the hostile vibe and decides to calm the guys down by singing one of her How Low Hello songs. Yuu smiles as he watches all the boys, including Jojiro, go absolutely nuts over what he thinks is just a dumb kid's song. During the lunch break, Jojiro zooms off to grab lunch for both of them. When Yuu gets to the cafeteria, he asks Jojiro if trying to speedrun his way into an early grave is his idea of a warm welcome back. Jojiro snaps back, telling Yuu he must have been seriously starved for affection as a kid if basic niceness confuses him so much. As they keep eating, Jojiro suddenly gets a text from Nao. Thinking they have been called to the student council to track down another ability user, both he and Yuu quickly rush to the council room. But when they get there, Kumagami is nowhere to be found. Instead, Nao explains she called them there for something else: to watch Yusa's new music video. Hearing this, Jojiro goes into full-on fanboy mode, running around the office like a maniac, totally overwhelmed with excitement about seeing an exclusive screening of Yusa's video. You can't help but think again how ridiculously obsessed his friend is. Nao then pops in the CD and starts playing the video on the big screen. During the song, Nao has to kick Jojiro away from the screen before he can try to lick it. When the song finally ends, Jojiro is practically drooling all over the screen in awe. Meanwhile, for the first time ever, Nao actually compliments Yusa's performance, though in her usual blunt way. She gives Yusa points for vocals, the song, and the clothes, but then subtracts a bunch of points for making her cringe, leaving Yusa with a pretty low score. The rest of the afternoon is spent watching Yusa's video over and over so Jojiro can stare at the idol's armpits until he's sure the image will be burned into his brain when he dies. Totally fed up with watching the same video endlessly, Yuu turns to Nao and asks when Kumagami is going to show up. Nao casually tells him Kumagami isn't coming at all. Annoyed, Yuu demands to know why she called them there in the first place. In response, Nao pulls out 2 tickets to a Jin concert, revealing she only has 2 and they need to figure out who gets to go. Yusa, confused, asks what Jin is. Jojiro eagerly jumps in, calling it a rock band, but Nao quickly yells at him, correcting that it's actually post-rock. Not interested. Jojiro says he'd rather pour cement in his ears than listen to that kind of music. Yusa also passes, joking that if she wanted something that boring, she would have dated Nao's rich dad. With everyone else saying no, Nao finally looks at Yuu. After hesitating for a bit, Yuu reluctantly agrees to go with her. Later, while walking back to his apartment, Yuu notices a blind girl with long pink hair passing by. He quickly realizes she's not from Japan, and hoping to score a green card somehow, he stops to talk to her. Suddenly, he's reminded of the huge field he imagined when he first heard Jin's music. Sensing him nearby, the girl walks over and in broken Japanese asks if he can take her to get manjayaki. Yuu corrects her, saying it's called something else entirely, making a joke, and then agrees to go with her. At the restaurant, Yuu orders the noodles, and a wave of sadness hits him as he starts missing Aayumi again. When the waiter asks if they want to cook the food themselves at the table, Yuu tells him the girl is blind, so it would be better if the waiter did it for them. The waiter instantly recognizes the girl as Sala Shane, who then introduces herself as the lead singer of Giant. After their meal, they leave the restaurant. Sensing Yu's sadness, Sala bluntly tells him he sounds like one of those guys on Reddit who lose everything in a messy divorce. Feeling a bit vulnerable, Yu admits he recently lost his sister, Aayumi. They walk to a nearby park where Yu opens up about how pointless his life feels, comparing it to a silent letter in a word. Salah, understanding his pain, offers to pay her respects to Aayumi. After taking Salah to his place, Yu watches as she prays for his sister. Once she's done, Yu excuses himself and calls Now, realizing he usually only contacts her late at night to send inappropriate pictures. When Now answers, he tells her he's with Sala, thinking she'll be impressed. But much to Yu's disappointment, Now just shrugs it off, saying she's not some obsessed K-pop fan who'd freak out over being near an idol. After Now hangs up, Yu goes back inside and asks Sala if she can come with him to a very special place for special people. To Sala's surprise, Yu actually takes her to meet Kazuki at the institution, calling it a fancy loony bin, where he's once again destroying pillows. When Sala learns from Yu that Kazuki used to be her fan, she starts singing a song to calm him down. Once Sala finishes singing, Kazuki seems much more stable than usual. After leaving the singer, Yu gets a call from Now, who excitedly reveals that her brother seemed to recognize her, which hadn't happened before. She thanks Yu and promises to meet him at the concert tomorrow. On the day of the concert, Yu, wanting to look good for Now, tries on a bunch of different outfits, trying to look super cool. Described crudely. After putting in a lot of effort, Yu stares at his reflection and reminds himself that his confidence should be enough to impress Now, using a vulgar self-assessment. When he arrives, Yu spots Now and tells her that if they lived in the past, he would have accused her of witchcraft because she looks stunningly beautiful. Now ignores his cheesy compliment, implying she's only interested in rich guys. Yu tries to brush off the rejection by asking Now why they're at the venue so early. Now reveals she wants to buy some Jean merchandise, which prompts Yu to tease her about being a secret fangirl. Now gives Yu a look that could kill, shutting him up instantly. On the way, Yu wonders how he and Now actually got so close, considering how much they disliked each other at the start. Just as the question pops into his head, Yu looks up at a Jean banner and realizes the band somehow brought them together. Once the concert starts, Sala totally owns the stage like a real rock star. Yu and Now find themselves getting into the music too, until Yu's head starts throbbing. His face goes pale as he thinks he somehow recognizes the song. All of a sudden, his head fills up with flashes of memories he can't understand or place. This overload makes him freak out, and eventually, Yu passes out cold. In a different scene, a memory flashback, Yu is sitting at a computer with Aayumi next to him. He's excitedly telling her how awesome the Jean song he just heard was. As they get up to leave, Yu notices an old man he's seen around before. The old man starts lecturing Yu about how classical music is better, and Yu just replies dismissively, "Okay, boomer." The old man, named Saitu, then asks if Aayumi is Yu's sister. When Yu confirms, Saitu says he feels sorry for him. After talking to the researcher, Saitu, Yu and Aayumi get in line for food. Yu complains that the food tastes like bad British cooking and suspects it's full of drugs. Aayumi, on the other hand, just says she's happy to eat with her brother and wishes their older brother could join them. Yu hushes Aayumi, reminding her quietly that Shunsuke's time-traveling power is too valuable for the researchers to let him wander around freely. While eating, Yu thinks about how the researchers only know about his body possessing power. If they ever found out about his real power, they'd lock him up just like Shunsuke. Suddenly, Kumagami sits down behind Yu and tells him he found someone with telepathy, but that person is already captured by the researchers. To save this person, Kumagami tells Yu to possess a specific boy nearby who has the power to pulverize things. Yu does what he's told. Kumagami then slips him a piece of paper with the location of the telepath. Before leaving, Kumagami tells Yu everyone is counting on him. Later, as both Yu and Aayumi are undergoing scans, Yu thinks about how the plan to rescue his brother Shunsuke is underway. That same day, Aayumi tells Yu the researchers have summoned her for special tests. This news completely shatters Yu's world. He begs the guards not to take Aayumi, stressing she doesn't even have any powers. Of course, since Yu isn't powerful or rich, the guards just tase him and lock him up. Yu wakes up later to the whole place shaking, making a dark joke about whose mother is causing an earthquake. Alarms start blaring, scaring Yu. In the end, he can't break down the door because he's not some action hero. All of a sudden, the good researcher, Saitu, opens Yu's cell door. Seeing Saitu covered in injuries and blood, Yu makes a crude joke about periods. Saito then reveals the horrible truth. The researchers forcibly activated Ayumi's power, causing massive destruction because Aayumi has the power of collapse. Scared for his little sister, Yuu asks Saito if they'll lock Aayumi up like Shunsuke, but the doctor says Aayumi is too dangerous. The evil researchers plan to dissect her, adding another crude comment about where her parts might end up. As Yuu is lost in shock, the researcher tells him to use his ultimate power, plunder. Yuu asks how he knows about it, but Saito basically tells him to stop asking dumb questions because his sister is about to be chopped into pieces. Yuu snaps back to reality and rushes to find the boy with telepathy. Once he finds him, Yuu possesses his body and then unleashes his second ability, Plunder, which lets him steal and use other people's powers permanently. Now, with telepathy, Yuu manages to contact Shunsuke, who is locked in a cell. Shunsuke learns everything about Ayumi's situation, but since he can only activate his time-leaping power by seeing, he tells Yuu he's helpless. Yuu tries to find help when a boy named Shichino phases through the wall, saying he's there to help. He tells Yuu to hurry and take his power. Once Yuu does, Shichino lets the guards capture him. Now armed with telepathy and phasing, Yuu quickly walks through the cell wall and frees Shunsuke, who then uses his power to time travel and change the future. Back in the present, Yuu wakes up in the hospital. Now tells him he was out cold. Yuu tells Now he now believes he has an older brother. Suddenly, Kumagami walks in, confirming that Yuu's memories are back. Now looks at Kumagami, who is now dry, and remarks that he looks kinda cute when he's not resembling a wet dish rag. Kumagami ignores Now. Narrator again implies he's too focused for romance, and tells Yuu he'll take him to meet Shunsuke. Hearing the name, Now reveals that it was Shunsuke who helped her get help for Kumagami before. Without wasting more time, Kumagami takes Yuu to meet his brother, and Now decides to tag along. Narrator makes another crude joke about her preferences. Arriving at Shunsuke's hideout, Yuu feels a bit awkward seeing Shunsuke, who still feels like a stranger, despite the memories. Understanding Yuu's hesitation, Shunsuke says he's ready to tell him the whole story. Shunsuke starts by explaining that to avoid ending up in the lab, he traveled back in time. He explains he woke up in his younger body but kept all his knowledge of the next 3 years. Knowing how important Kumagami would be, Shunsuke describes aggressively confronting him, using crude terms, quickly clarifying his non-romantic intentions and explaining their past friendship, eventually convincing a skeptical Kumagami. Since Kumagami has the power to sniff out other ability users, he took young Shunsuke to a hideout where a group of kids with powers had already gathered. Arriving there, Shunsuke jokes about them forming their own secret society. However, the 3 kids already there look at him like he's a freak, using a body oddity comparison. To win their trust, Shunsuke points at Shichino and proves his knowledge by stating Shichino's phasing power. Moving on, he tells the girl Madoki, calling her ugly, that she has hypnotism, which also makes her sleepy. Lastly, he points at Maeda Mari and states his power is erasing memories. This demonstration finally convinces the group Shunsuke is legit, and they agree to follow his plans. Shunsuke tells them their first goal was to find more kids with special abilities, but even after building a whole network of powered kids, Shunsuke failed because when the authorities came, the adults always caught them, and they couldn't free themselves. This made Shunsuke realize he needed help from adults to fight the bad adults. So, after time traveling again, Shunsuke explained the new plan, and Kumagami said he knew a couple of adults who might believe them, because they used to have powers too when they were young. Shunsuke recounts how he had to try this whole process 4 times, noticing his eyesight getting worse each time. During one of his 15th birthday celebrations, he got the idea to raise money to hire adults who could help them. Kumagami agreed, and they started trying to get funds. But the researchers always managed to recruit these potential adult allies before Shunsuke and his group could. Shunsuke explains that after another time travel attempt, he celebrated his 15th birthday again. This time, he was much more focused on protecting his siblings. He remembers Yuu mentioning something about high school, which sparked the idea to create a special school where he could watch over and protect kids with abilities from being experimented on. He called Kumagami and shared his goal, to keep these kids safe until they hit puberty, when their powers would naturally fade. Shunsuke also stated this would be his very last attempt before he went completely blind. After waking up from his final time jump, Shunsuke found his eyesight was totally gone. However, his determination to protect his siblings and friends became his new driving force. Shunsuke and the group worked tirelessly to set up the school, and eventually they succeeded. Once the school was up and running, Shunsuke decided he had to erase Yuu and Ayumi's memories because he couldn't run a school and babysit them at the same time. So, with the help of his friends, Maidomari, he wiped Yuu and Ayumi's memories. Once that was done, Shunsuke focused on building more schools across Japan to protect as many children as possible. Back in the present, Shunsuke tells Yuu it's finally time to save Ayumi. When Shunsuke tells Yuu to possess him and take his power, Yuu is confused. Now then explains that she and Jojiro always knew about Yuu's real power, plunder, because Kumagami had told them before they even came to recruit him. Hearing this, Yuu asks now why they didn't tell him sooner, as he could have just stolen other users' abilities instead of dealing with them individually. Now reveals they didn't know what the side effects of taking everyone's powers might be, so they decided to keep it a secret. Shunsuke then jumps back in, urging Yuu to take his power and use it to save Ayumi. Yuu complies, taking Shunsuke's time travel ability. He immediately uses it to go back to the night Ayumi first got sick. As Yuu watches over her, he feels a mix of old feelings and new determination. The next morning, when the student council starts suspecting someone in the apartment building has powers, Yuu speaks up and suggests they check on his sister, knowing exactly what's about to happen. Events unfold just like they did before with the suspicious girl visiting Ayumi, but this time Yuu keeps a close watch on her. When night falls, Yuu tells Nao he's from the future and that his sister is supposed to die the next day. Without hesitating, Nao believes him and agrees to get the student council involved in his plan. The next day, instead of keeping Ayumi home, Yuu uses plunder to take her collapse power, then sends her to school while he follows closely, with the other student council members nearby. When the confrontation with Konishi happens, Yuu steps in, scares her off, and then safely walks Ayumi out of the school. As they're walking, Yuu spots Kumagami and calls him by the special nickname Shunsuke used, signaling that he knows everything now. Recognizing the sign, Kumagami takes Yuu straight to Shunsuke. Arriving at Shunsuke's base, Yuu introduces Ayumi to Shunsuke, revealing he's their older brother. Ayumi is totally confused, unsure how to handle this news. Shunsuke approaches them and starts explaining why he brought them there, but Yuu cuts him off, saying he already knows the reason. Yuu then fills Shunsuke in on everything he did, including what happened before he time traveled. Shunsuke is genuinely impressed and praises Yuu for pulling off the mission flawlessly. Yuu smiles and asks Shunsuke if they can finally go home now, but sadly Shunsuke says none of them can go back to a normal life. He then tells Yuu that possessing the ultimate power, plunder, makes him more famous and desirable than even huge celebrities, using a specific, crude comparison. Shunsuke then leads them to a research facility where Yuu recognizes Saito from his dreams, memories. Furious, Yuu demands to know why they're there. The researcher starts explaining they're working on a vaccine to stop people from getting the illness that causes superpowers. Puzzled, Yuu asks why their powers are considered an illness. The scientist then reveals the existence of a comet named Charlotte that passes Earth every so often, raining down dust that gives people special abilities when inhaled. He explains this is the same thing that caused witches to be hunted in the past. Hearing this, Yuu smiles and suggests to Shunsuke they can go home once they're all vaccinated, but Shunsuke crushes his hopes again, stating they have a ton of work to do because the vaccines are only made in Japan, while kids in other countries are still in danger. Yuu asks how that's their problem, which ticks off Shunsuke, who warns Yuu that his blunt way of talking will get them cancelled someday, using modern slang. Later, Yuu and Ayumi meet Shunsuke's friends, who really take a liking to Ayumi, while Yuu feels like the odd one out, just like usual. The next day, Kumagami senses another ability user has popped up. He tells Yuu he's going to update Nao and Jojiro. As he sits in his car, he notices his driver, Furuki, shaking nervously. When the driver takes a wrong turn, Kumagami gets concerned and reaches for his phone to call his friends. But before he can dial, Furuki apologizes, explaining his family is in danger, and the people holding them hostage told him to bring Kumagami to them. Understanding the situation, Kumagami agrees to go with Furuki. When they reach an abandoned warehouse, Kumagami is met by a group of men who tell Furuki he has one more job to do. Once Furuki leaves, the men start torturing Kumagami to make him give up all the info on other ability users. When Kumagami refuses, a big dude punches his teeth out. Not wanting to give his kidnappers the satisfaction, Kumagami just laughs and says, now he doesn't have any teeth anyway. Now really pissed off, Kumagami's kidnappers inject him with truth serum, which makes him spill everything. That night, using the info they got, Kumagami's kidnappers raid the school Shunsuke created and capture Nao. The same night, Shunsuke gets a call telling him that Kumagami and Nao's lives are in danger. If he wants to save them, he has to hand over Yuu. Before hanging up, the bad guy warns Shunsuke they've been planning this for a long time, meaning he can't just time travel out of this mess. With no other options, Shunsuke tells Yuu the classic, "With great power comes great responsibility" line and says now he has to save everyone. Yuu gets mad, telling Shunsuke he's already messed up enough and wishes a truck would just hit him right now so he could get reincarnated as a slime in another world, a popular anime trope. In his anger, Yuu almost triggers the collapse power again, but Shunsuke calms him down, telling him to think about Nao. Alone now, Yuu remembers all the moments he shared with Nao and finally realizes she's the one he cares about. With this new motivation, Yuu heads off to save Nao, but when he arrives, he's attacked by some kid who injures one of his eyes, making it impossible for him to use the time leap power anymore. Now furious, Yuu ends up unleashing the collapse ability, destroying the entire building. Shunsuke and his friends quickly run towards the rubble and find an unconscious Yuu. Shunsuke's friends realize Yuu used the last of his power mainly to save himself. This upsets Shichino, who asks the unconscious Yuu if he only thought about himself. A few seconds later, the group finds Kumagami, who sacrificed himself to save Nao from the collapse. Shunsuke breaks down completely as his best friend dies right in front of him, and he can't do anything about it. Yuu wakes up in the hospital, his body aching and his mind racing, as he remembers the horrible events that led to him passing out. Overcome with pain and terror, he screams and is about to cause another collapse when Shichino quickly gives him a shot of strong painkillers to calm him down. As Yuu's body relaxes, he realizes he's strapped to the bed. Looking sideways, he sees Maidamari and Madoki coming into the room. Confused, Yuu asks what's going on, and Madoki sadly tells him that Kumagami died. Shichino, barely holding back his own grief, lashes out at Yuu, blaming him for Kumagami's death until his friends manage to calm him down. Madoki continues, telling Yuu they had misjudged the kidnappers, thinking they wanted his time-traveling powers, when really they just wanted to get rid of that ability. Yuu, still trying to process everything, asks about his brother Shunsuke. With anger in his voice, Shichino reminds Yuu that Kumagami was Shunsuke's best friend. Now filled with guilt, Yuu suddenly remembers the crushing pain he felt when Aayumi died. He realizes Shunsuke must be going through that same horrible agony right now, mourning someone he deeply cared about. However, he quickly pushes that thought aside when Jojiro arrives with warm food. Later, Yusa comes to visit and feeds him her stew, weirdly described as finger made. Yuu smiles, thinking about how Kumagami's death somehow helped him start a potential romance with a popular idol. After a couple of days, Yuu visits his brother, who's deep in his sad emo phase. Yuu tries to talk to Shunsuke, but he cuts him off, telling him how terrorist groups are stepping up their efforts to capture more ability users and how he doesn't know what to do now that Kumagami is gone. Not wanting to be around depressing people, Yuu gets the hell off the rooftop and goes back to his comfy hospital room, where Nao greets him. Wanting to act cool, Yuu asks Nao how he should rescue everyone, but unfortunately for his ego, Nao actually gives him a plan. She tells Yuu that he can travel the world and steal everyone's power if he's really serious about saving everyone. After thinking it over seriously, Yuu agrees and tells Nao he has feelings for her. This surprises Nao, who tells Yuu she'll wait for him, and once he's back, she'll welcome him with open legs. Yuu quickly accepts the deal and starts his plan by taking away Nao's powers. He then takes Jojiro's and Yusa's powers, which means Misa is also gone for good. Before leaving Japan, Yuu gets one last visit from Nao, who gives him a small notebook saying she'll be waiting for him. Arriving in Singapore, Yuu struggles a bit at first, but then finds his first target, a guy with the power to read minds. After quietly sneaking into his car, Yuu quickly steals his ability. He then tries to talk to the guy in broken English, explaining he's a special case with a cheat code that lets him steal powers. But hearing Yuu's terrible English, the guy's mind basically short-circuits trying to understand him. Using the man's power, Yuu reads his mind, which helps him find the next ability user. His next target, a boy named Angelo, has the power to track people with supernatural abilities. As Yuu steals his power, he realizes everything is going to be much easier now since he can easily find other ability users. After taking care of all the powered people in Singapore, Yuu heads to South Africa and then to Egypt. Soon enough, Yuu becomes known everywhere as the One-Eyed Grim Reaper. However, the more powers Yuu absorbs, the more messed up he becomes. One day, Yu goes to sleep, and the next day when he wakes up, he realizes he basically destroyed an entire town without remembering it. Eventually, he gets to a point where he forgets now and all his memories. The only thing left in his head is the feeling that he made a promise to someone important a long time ago. After years of stealing abilities from users all over the world, Yu finally gets rid of all powers. Just as he collapses from exhaustion, Shunsuke arrives right then in a helicopter. The next thing Yu knows, he wakes up in a hospital with Nao sitting by his side. When he asks who she is, Nao gently tells him that she's his girlfriend, who made him promise to come back home. Hearing this, Yu apologizes for forgetting her, but she assures him that from now on, they'll make plenty of new happy memories together.